name is Michelle Segura, and I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more in detail in 1 second. I just want to say welcome, CSUN. I'm so excited to be here and present for you all. And today we're going to do the Undocu-Hustle workshop, and this is basically an entrepreneurship workshop. This is very different than the technical workshops I usually do. So today we're going to get a little bit more into who you are, what kind of business you want to develop. So if you were expecting a ton of information about entrepreneurship, today will not be the workshop, but I will share with you important information that you will need to develop your business. So when you walk out of here, you can expect to walk out with a business plan. So what I will share with you is a little bit about myself, then we'll go through our day, we'll go through some of the things we'll cover, our community roles, and then we'll get started with our workshop. So what I wanted to share with you a little bit about me, I'm a DACA recipient. I've had DACA since 2012, and I continue to be very much undocumented. So a lot of the fears that our community has, I still have them. I come from a mixed status family, which means that I have siblings who are citizens of the US, and I also have siblings who are undocumented. And so I know firsthand what it feels like to not have any legal working documents, because my first year of high school, coming into college, I didn't have a work permit and I didn't have that protection. So I know that it can be very alarming, right, to go through this. But it's not impossible. So in 2018, I actually started a master's in business administration at Costa LA. If you didn't know, as an undocumented student, you can pursue a graduate degree and have the state still cover most of your tuition. And so that's one of the main reasons why I have loved being at a Cal State. I did complete a bachelor's in Cal State Long Beach, Phil Beach, in 2017 in marketing. And I'll tell you, if you're a student right now wondering, what should I study? Do a quick research in the market to see what career is going to be in demand whenever you're going to be ready to finish. Because in 2011, when I was 17, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I did that quick market search and I found out that marketing would be in demand. And it sure was. I'll tell you, with social media, that was one of the careers that I knew I would still have a job after having a 4-year degree. I consider myself an undocu-hustler. It just means that I never have just one job. I always have side gigs, just because I didn't have a work permit, and I've learned that being a student can be very challenging, and sometimes not having secure financial income, it just guided me to more opportunities, and I've loved it. I love to uplift and empower my community, and this is why I do the work that I do. Even though I'm undocumented, I like to learn, I like to empower others, and I love, love, love to have others do the same. So one ask that I have today is for you to take information that you get today and that you share it with at least 3 other people, okay? Because we want to continue empowering our community. Like I said, I'm an undocu-hustler, so I got a lot of things going on right now. So my day job is I'm a coordinator for a Dream Resource Center, very much like Daniela and Madison. I work for Los Angeles Trade Tech College, but I'm also an instructor. So 2 years ago, I'm actually about to start my 3rd year of teaching this Saturday. I am an adjunct instructor for my district, and so I teach GED courses in Spanish. I do career exploration for high school students, and really anything within the non-credit segment of community college, because these classes are free. I've also taught business courses in communication and leadership for my undocu folks, and I love, love, love this part of my life and my work. Some other things that I do, I advocate at the state level. So I'm an advisory board member. I've worked with the Dreamers Project. It was a partnership with Immigrants Rising, one of the largest advocates for undocumented students. And I am currently working again with the Foundation for Community Colleges in creating toolkits for educators. So you'll hear a little bit more about my work, but this is basically who I am. All to say is, I was you, I am you, and I continue to empower. And I'm here to tell you that even though I'm undocumented, I will tell you that you can do anything and everything, okay? So let's talk a little bit about this space. When we're coming into this space, you hear from Daniela, we are recording, but we will pause So you can have a time to share. But what I do want to do is establish some of these community roles. We can scratch any of them, but I like to adopt these. So I want to establish an environment that you feel open to brainstorming together this new information. I didn't build a Q&A at the end because I want you to communicate with me through the chat. I want you to communicate by raising your hand. And then when we call on you, you know that we're going to pause the recording so you can just communicate and talk, right? We want you to share anything that you'd like to share. If you have a resource that you'd like to share with other students, drop it in the chat. The more, the merrier. Definitely respecting each other. Not all the time will we agree with each other. But I would want to ask you to be mindful for listening to others, and be mindful about sharing the time. I know you may have a lot of questions, and that's okay. But if you feel like, hey, I have all these questions, maybe you might benefit from a one-on-one, and I will give you my contact information and we can sit down later over Zoom or a phone call. I'm definitely open to that. And we're going to do a lot of info today, mostly about you. I like to call this workshop like a self-work type of workshop. But it's the start of the conversation, right? This is the start. This is not like you're going to walk out of here and you're going to like open your business. Like maybe you will, but we're about scaling. And if you like, we want to be inclusive, so you can definitely rename yourself to include your pronouns and your first or last name, or for your protection, you can definitely rename yourself and exclude your first name and maybe just go by a nickname or go by your last name. That's definitely allowed. Okay. So that's a little bit about the space. So I want to get to hear from you. So I'm wondering if in the chat, you can share with us your name, your major, and a reason for attending today's workshop. And I'm wondering if we can pause here to not record, just so we can get a few students to introduce themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're covering today. So get ready because we're going to do a lot of journaling. Okay, I feel that a lot of this self-work comes within. So we're going to define entrepreneurship. We're going to do our first initial batch of journaling. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about what it means to you, what your skill sets are. We'll jump back in and do more journaling to discover some of the blockages that you may have. Then we'll start the fun part, which is the business part development. And right before the business plan, I will explain to you like the different business entities that you can do. And then we'll do some share outs, some shout outs, and we'll be moving on to next steps. So hopefully some of the next steps include like really defining some of these business entities, and I'll leave you with some resources that are really great from Immigrants Rising, where you can further your research. So this is step one. Step two will be more technical, okay? But it all starts with you. And so what I will want to say about entrepreneurship is that it's all around us. So in this next activity I have planned out, you're gonna need a couple things, right? So what I want to cover with you is, I'm going to keep it very simple, but just be prepared. Since we're doing journaling, I want you to have 1 to 2 sheets of paper ready, available next to you, of writing tools such as a pen, pencil, keyboard. If you're doing like Word or notes, that's okay too. Just I'll kind of walk you through how to organize your documents so it mimics what you would do on a paper. And then what you also want, we're going to use menti.com, which is a very like involved site. So you would just need your cell phone or a computer. And I'm asking you today to trust yourself, right? Sometimes we want other people to tell us what kind of business we should open or where we should guide, but a lot of that comes from you. So through the journaling, we're going to explore that. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I see one that says, I would like to start a consulting business after I graduate in college counseling. Yeah, so definitely we will talk about kind of the business structure. And when we do the business plan, whatever idea you have, this is how we're going to develop it. Okay, awesome. So let's get started with the first activity. So Miguel on the chat is going to help us. He already did. He's amazing. So I want you guys to pull your phone out or open a tab on your computer and navigate to menti.com. Literally, if you open the chat, just copy the website and then type in that code 3190. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second so I can get that going. So what you should see when you open that, and if you don't, please let me know, you should see this question. What is your earliest memory of entrepreneurship in your life? And so I want you to just go in and just start dropping. As soon as you start answering this question, we're gonna get responses up here. If for some reason this is like you don't have access to the technology or you're on your phone accessing Zoom, drop it in the chat. That's okay too. We're super flexible here. So I see someone, their earliest memory of entrepreneurship was at the age of 7. I'm wondering what you saw. Someone saw their mom selling food. My mom currently sells food. She has a whole delivery business, and I see that Undocu-Hustle going on. Someone sold fish. That is so great. Okay, so we already have Undocu-Hustlers in the house. So maybe this workshop will help you level up some of this. Wow, you used to sell jewelry at school and art, selling chocolate. The Swami sales. Wow, you guys. The earliest memory of entrepreneurship at the age of 8, you guys would sell Valentine cards. I'm wondering if you guys can still do that, because I still see people hustling, right, for Valentine's Day, making really, really good profits. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. The code, you guys will see it right at the top. It's at 3190-85.5. I used to sell snacks at school. Oh, I used to sell snacks too.
If I told you guys, shared on the chat, working at the age of 10 in Mexico at my parents' market. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Madison. Wow, it seems like the more we go through here, like the more it seems like everyone had that early memory of that entrepreneurship, right? So I want to let you guys know, just with this activity, that we are all entrepreneurs and we have seen it. We have been around it, right? So the next thing is, how do you level these ideas that we have seen around us, right? Like when you see that vendor down the street, when you see folks that are selling decorations for Valentine's, candy, snacks, how do we level that to be that next business idea, right? And to really bring it to the next level where it will help us bring in that revenue. So with that, I'm gonna pivot back to our presentation. And I want us to start debunking some of these mental roadblocks that may prevent us from actually developing or furthering these business ideas that we already have. So if you can help me take out a sheet of paper, we're gonna fold it in 4. So you'll create 4 little squares. And again, if you're on Microsoft Form or Microsoft Word, just create a table. You can create a table and then just have your 4 sites. So what we're doing with this activity, you're not sharing, okay? All you're doing is really journaling for yourself. And this will be for your eyes only, but this we will use throughout this presentation. So we're in here until 2:15, so expect to use this paper back and forth, okay? So on the top side, I want you to write 5 to 7 skills you hold, right? Can someone share with me a skill that you may have? And you're welcome to share it on the chat. Like I'll tell you, for me, I'm a strategist. I love public speaking. I love sitting down and thinking of ways that we can accomplish something. But I'm wondering if you guys have any examples of a strategy or a skill set that you may already hold. Someone earlier said they wanted to open their own business in consulting. So you may already have knowledge in that field of counseling, right? So that can be one of the skill sets that you have. So I really want you to think deep. And then what I want you to do after that, after you develop your 5 to 7 skills on one side, on that top right-hand side of your paper, I want you to align it, and to align it to one problem that you can fix. So for example, if you put that you were really good at math, then one problem that you can fix is students with low grades, students who need extra help with a final midterm. And so what we want to do is align these two. And I'm wondering if we can pause for a quick second to see if there's any questions, or you guys can drop them in the chat. All right. So now that we started debunking some of these mental roadblocks, I wanted to share with you, you're not alone. There's 7 obstacles that were presented by Forbes magazine for folks that want to start a business. And so who can tell me what Forbes magazine is? What are they known for?
The richest and the famous.
Yeah, you guys have heard of like Fortune 500. They're a business magazine, right? Gabby, thank you so much for sharing that. They're very well known. So if you're thinking about starting your own business, this is one of those magazines that you want to download that app. Definitely one of the things next to like the Wall Street Journal that you want to read on a daily, right? So this journal, you guys will get the PowerPoint. So then I linked the actual article so you guys can read through it. These are the 7 limitations that folks see, right? The first one, financial limitations. I don't have enough money. I don't have the financial capital. I don't have resources or access to financial resources to start my business, right? Who like that? Who here feels like that? Maybe raise your hand or reaction. Definitely, right? I don't have enough experience. That's our number 2. I need to go through school. I am not perfect. There's people that know way more about this than me. That's how they feel, right? So that's another roadblock. Number 3, no standout idea. Why would I go into the business of creating, for example, Valentine treats? Why would I go into the business of eyelash technician? Why would I go into the business of cosmetology when there's already people who are doing it, right? We create these roadblocks in our brains. When in reality, if you guys look at the current like market, I love the Kardashians, and not just because of their like reality TV, but as businesswomen, their team have really developed. And if you look at Skims and Savage Fenty, they're direct competitors, right? And you can see that their ideas are the same, right? It's not different. But the reality is that one product offers a different service or offers or targets a different market, right? And so I want you to start thinking about it that way and not creating that as a barrier in your mind. If we're thinking about like even grocery stores, right? We have so many different markets of grocery stores, yet they're still in competition with each other and thriving, some of them. Number 4, we have current responsibilities. I have a job right now. I have kids, I have school, right? This is one of those excuses I love to tell myself. Like, I am so busy. I'm going to start my business after I'm done with school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right? When the reality is that we can kind of scale our business, like start with something, right? Ishmael, the name is Forbes magazine. 5, we have fear of failure, right? We see so many businesses that get started and then for some reason, they just don't thrive. And we don't want that to be us. We don't want people to think, hey, I started a business and it just didn't go as planned, right? Aversion to stress, right? Or hard work. Like, we really don't want to be the person that's an entrepreneur. We don't want to start a business. And the reality is that entrepreneurship is not easy, right? It's a lot of risk taking, and not many people want to do that. Some people feel comfortable working that 9 to 5. I'll tell you, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and that's okay too. Right? But if you're here, it's because you had that idea of, hey, I want to open my own business, right? And number 7 is poor timing, right? This is just not the time. Maybe in a couple years, I'll think about it, but not right now. So if you have any of these blockages, you're not alone, but we want to write about them. So on your sheet of paper, you wrote down on the top your skills, your one problem that you can align it to. Now I want you to take it to the bottom of the page. So on the bottom left side, I want you to write, what are my obstacles? You saw the 7 that are most common, but I want you to write, what are your obstacles, right? I don't want you to focus on what we saw. These are just some examples of what we see. And if some of these are what you see, then that's okay, all right? Once you're done writing those obstacles, the only thing I want you to do on the bottom right side is, how can I overcome them? But we are not gonna fill them out just yet, okay? Any questions? All right, I'm gonna cue the music and let you guys work through this journal for 1 second. And I'll give you guys about a minute to write a couple things of your barriers. These should be pretty easy. All right, guys. So for those of you guys who are just joining us, welcome. Don't worry if you missed any of the earlier slides. The presentation will be shared with you guys. But right now, if you have a sheet of paper, just fold it in 4. And then the exercise we were doing, where we're filling out the bottom 2 squares. So go ahead and take a picture of this because you may need it later. But let me go ahead and move on. Do I have any questions on what we just did? We're good so far? Okay. So for this next part, we're going to get a little technical. So I want you guys to do a quick exercise with me. So if you guys can help me, we're gonna breathe for just a second, okay? I'm gonna share with you guys what I do when I'm feeling a little stressed out. I need to present, I need to take an exam, or I need to walk into something that I know is gonna alter my nervous system. So we're gonna breathe so we can calm down and we can be in a state where we can accept the information. So I want you guys to breathe. And the way that I do it is I count, right? So I inhale for 4 seconds, hold it in for 2, and then release at the count of 6, right? So I do this so then my inhales are slower and my exhales are longer. And what this will do is just kind of mellow out my nervous system so I don't feel stressed and I can take in this information, because it will get a little technical. Okay, are you guys ready? All right, so we're gonna take 3 deep breaths. So we're gonna start with an inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 2. And release at the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna do 2 more, and these you're gonna do on your own. Inhale. Exhale. And the last one you do on your own. Great. So let's get started on the types of business structures. This is one of my favorite parts besides the business plan. So say, for example, you want to start your own business and you don't want to go through all the legal portions of it, right? You can become an independent contractor. This basically means you're self-employed, you produce a specific type of work, and you do it in a certain amount of time. So the quickest example that I can give you is a plumbing contractor, right? Someone is going in there, they're gonna fix the plumbing at a business, at a house. But the general rule for independent contractor is that the payer, the person who is awarding you like for the job that you're doing, they only have control of the result of the work. So if you're a plumber, for example, and you're going in, they want you to fix a sink, right? So me as a payer, I will tell you, hey, you're coming in and you're going to fix the sink. But as the plumber or the contractor, you get to decide when you come in and how the work will be done. But this also means that you are going to be liable for any losses, any debts. So when you get paid, right, if you charge $100 for this service, you're going to get a check, you're going to get cash for this $100. The person who's paying you, they're not going to take taxes away like you would in a normal 9 to 5, right? So you do the exchange. Typically you would have a contract just to protect, right, the limitations of the work that you're doing. And you would say, hey, I'm coming in as a plumber, I'm fixing the sink, and this will take me 3 hours, and I'll come in on like a Monday, but I set those terms as a contractor. And then what you would do with those $100, you want to put some of that money away for tax at the end of the year, right? As an independent contractor, this is different than your typical 9 to 5. In a 9 to 5, when you're going to work somewhere, you want to have right to work documents, right? So this would mean you need a social, you need to be a citizen, or you need to have DACA, TPS, or some kind of work permit. As an independent contractor, you only need an ITIN number, which is an individual tax identification number that you can apply to with the IRS. This is also the same number that you can use to file taxes at the end of the year. And as an independent contractor, when you come in to do this job, you just need to fill out a form that you would do with the IRS, and then that's it. You do the form. Instead of putting your social, you put your ITIN number, you do the contract with whoever you're doing business with, and you're good to go, right? You get paid, you put the stipulations of the financial agreement within the contract, that way you're protected, and you're good to go, right? So this is definitely different than setting up your own business. Some of the laws that I can advise you that affect independent contracting are IRCA. You have DACA, TPS. You can definitely be an independent contractor with DACA or TPS. You just wouldn't use an ITIN. You would end up using your social security number. And then AB5. So in the chat, we actually put a link for an article with AB5. This was new, and this had to do with Uber and Lyft and a lot of the stipulations between independent contractor versus what actually needs to be an employee. So there's been a lot of changes, right? The main thing that I can tell you is for AB5, you cannot hire an independent contractor if they're doing the same kind of business that you normally operate, right? So say, for example, you are a business who has a secretary. They're usually, that's their 9 to 5. That's what they do. You cannot hire an independent contractor to work as a secretary and expect them to come Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, right? Because one of the main things of independent contracting is that you're coming in for a specific type of work, and the independent contractor is setting up that time. I will give you guys a link for the Undocu-Hustle website. So I'm not sure if we can drop it in the chat now or later, but the website has videos, it has content on independent contractors. I'm just giving you the top of the iceberg. And I know questions are gonna come up, so I don't want you to feel like I have all these questions now, when will they be answered? Because like I said, today's workshop won't go too deep into that, but undocuhustle.org does have videos and more content that will answer a lot of these questions that you may have right now. So with that, let's dive into the business models. We have sole proprietorship. This basically means that you are the owner of the business. You take all liability. There's no separation between you and the business. We have a partnership. This is maybe you and a friend want to start a business. Both of the people within this business are taking the same liability. So if you're going to put in $50 for the business, and both of you guys are putting that same amount, but you guys are partners, right? There's no distinction between you and the business. So if there is debt, if there is any loss in the business, your personal finances or assets, such as a house you may own, a vehicle, they're directly tied to the business. So there's no protection. Versus when you actually set up a business entity, such as a corporation, limited liability company, or a workers' cooperative. These actually provide a protection for you, right? So a corporation, for example, you have some of the main things, and the main things that separate all these, I will tell you, it's how you file taxes. So a corporation, you can eventually go public. You can share profits with shareholders. You do get an employer identification number, so you can hire people. And any of these, you can start with an ITIN number. Don't feel like you need a social security number to start them. Limited liability company is also known as an LLC. These are more popular because they provide that separation. Like if I were to open a consulting business, I would set up an LLC because I would get an employee identification number. I can open a bank account with this business. And then what I want to do is not pierce the veil, because what you want to do is keep all finances completely separate, right? Like I'm not gonna mesh in my own finances, my personal finance with my business, because the whole idea of a limited liability company is that it protects your assets. If I own a home, if I own a vehicle, and the business is not doing too well, it's only going to affect the business, but it's not going to affect me. Okay, but once you mix your finances, then it makes it really difficult to protect yourself, and a lot of people make that mistake. Workers cooperative is very similar to a partnership, except you have a group of people that come together because they want to work for the business, but also have like firsthand of a decision making within the business. Again, this is a lot of info. I don't expect you to retain all of it. I just want you to know that these businesses are there. Okay. So let's get started with our business plan. Are you guys ready? I know that was a lot of info, so if you need to slow down here and take another breath, please do. We're running a little behind on time, but I will tell you, the business plan is one of the most fun things we can do. So we're gonna do it in about 15 minutes. So this means that for every point that I'm gonna give you, you have about a minute to write. Okay, I'm gonna keep the music playing in the background, but I'm gonna talk through it, okay? And I'll pause it whenever I explain what we need to do. And if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. So what I want you to do is get that sheet of paper that we were working on, turn it around, okay? Because now we're gonna start. And at the top, I want you to write business plan for, and we'll talk about what we're gonna do there. If you're working on Microsoft Word, just start a new page. Okay, any questions up to this point? So far, so good. All right, okay. So let's jump into here. First, we're gonna get started with the one problem. We already worked through this, right? So I want you to pick one of the problems that you had a skill set on, just one. And this does not mean that this is what your business plan will be on, but this just means is that you're learning how to create a business plan. So you can take what you're learning today and develop another business plan for another idea when you feel like you have more time, like you have maybe an hour or two to just sit down and write and let your creative juices flow and come up with that. Today, we're just doing kind of like an example of what a business plan could be like. But if you're already coming in like the student that said, I want to open a consulting firm, then that's your idea. Go for it. Let's develop it today, okay? So I want you to pick one, and then you wrote business plan for tutoring, for example, and then you're gonna write by and your name. So the title of your business plan should be business plan for tutoring by Michelle Segura, for example. Any questions? Okay. And one advice that I tell you as we go through this, I'm going to give you the heading, so just leave space for that. You're going to have, if you're like very organized like I am sometimes, you're going to have 10 points. So as you organize your document, just leave space in your business plan for 10 headings, okay? And I'll give you the headings, I'll give you some questions, and we're going to do that guided to go through it, okay? I hope you guys are excited because I am. let's get started with the first part of your business plan. We're gonna get started with that executive summary. So I want you to write the heading, executive summary, and then I want you to write, answer these questions. If you're not ready to develop your business plan today, that's okay. You can just take notes and you can write some of these. But again, you will get the PowerPoint after this presentation. So I want you to answer, will this one problem that I'm fixing, will I turn this into a product or a service? A product is something tangible, like maybe I want to create mugs, right? This is a tangible product versus consulting, that would be a service I provide. Can you explain it in 1 or 2 sentences? Who will you sell this product to or service? And where do you see your company going? So let me give you about a minute just to answer this, and then we'll move. Again, because we're short on time, I'm gonna go through this, but you will have the opportunity to come back and fill this out. Alrighty, so let's move on to this next part. So now that we have our executive summary, let's move on to our mission statement. So under a mission statement, I want you to answer the question, what do you want to accomplish with this idea? And then let me give you about a minute to answer this. Alrighty, so we're going to be moving right along. Let's talk about our business members. So this is the part where you get to tell us who is part of your business idea. Will they be yourself? Will it be you and a friend? Will it be you and some family member? Who is part of this business idea that you have? And if it's only you, that's okay. Okay, this one's a little more quick, so just write business member and then just write who's going to be part of it. And then if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I am checking it so I can pause them and answer questions that you may have. Okay, so let me move on to the next one. This is a more technical side. This is the legal structure. So you don't have to decide now. You can leave it blank, but definitely write legal structure. And then this will be what kind of business structure you'll pick. Like we just covered a few of them. We talked about the limited liability company, which is the LLC. We talked about the corporation. We talked about a sole proprietorship. We also talked about independent contracting. You don't have to pick it right now, but definitely once we share with you the Undocu-Hustle website and you get to watch a few videos, come back and fill this part out, okay? All right. So with this one, since we're only doing legal structure and then hopefully leaving it blank, or maybe you already know, I'll move on to the next one. And if you need me to go back, please just comment on the chat or mute yourself and let me know. All right. So let's get into some of the fun parts of this. It's not as technical. The market search. Can you tell me a little bit more about your product or service? What are you doing? If you're doing tutoring, how many hours are you tutoring? Why is your product a little different than someone else's? Does it have an industry like entertainment, manufacturing, technology? We talked about consulting. And if you don't know yet, just write industry, 2 dots, and then just leave it blank. So then you come back to write down what the market, and I'll give you guys like a minute to write here. Okay, I hope that was enough time for you to write like 1 or 2 sentences on here. Are we okay to move along? Can I get thumbs up? Yep, okay, you guys are still with me. All right, so let's move on to this next one. This is, honestly, I keep saying like this is the fun part, but this one right here. I want you guys to look at it. This one is my favorite one because I am a marketing major and this is what's trending. This is a part that can take your business from mediocre business to something of like where you get maybe like 5 customers coming in to where you guys have lines out the door. I want you guys to pause for a second, close your eyes, and think about one business that you will wait more than an hour or 2 hours because you know it's that good, you know the service is that good. Can you guys share with me what's one business that you guys right off of your mind you know you're gonna wait?
Food.
Food. What kind of restaurants will you do that for?
Something I would really like. I would stand in line.
Peruvian food on the chat. Yep, Gabby. I'm a foodie, so yep. I will wait. Chick-fil-A usually has like really long lines. Jessica tells us vegan food. I can't pronounce that, but I'm gonna say it's Patagonia. Sushi, ramen. Yeah, sushi places always, especially during COVID, if you go somewhere and you don't have a reservation, ooh, it's gonna be tough, right? But I want you to think of places that have that, okay? And I want you to think, where did you hear about that place? And it's a lot of the marketing, okay? So in this next, someone waited 2 hours for Korean barbecue, and I will again. Yeah, Portos, oh my God, Portos, right? Marketing, guys, this is marketing. So in this section, I want you to write target market description. So you're gonna come back to this at some point and develop it a little bit more. I want you to focus a lot on it, but I want you to think about your future customers. Who are they? How old are they? What do they do? What is their income like? What do they enjoy doing? Okay, let's spend like 2 minutes here. And this is called your target market. Any questions, I can answer them on the chat. Alrighty, I wish we can stay here. I feel like we can write so much about our target market, and you will have this, right? The opportunity to kind of come back to this. But part of marketing is doing an internal analysis. So I want to introduce you to the term SWOT analysis. And this is one of the most important things that you can do. And you can do this with a business. You can do this with your job. You can do this with yourself. So today I tailored this to just be about yourself, but you can write about the business plan or business idea that you want to do. But because we're thinking about being entrepreneurs, we want to start with our self resources, which includes our human capital, right? So the SWOT analysis really stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So under each, I have some questions that can help you answer. For today's exercise, this is meant to be something that we do over like 15 minutes because it's supposed to be intensive. So for today, I just want you to create a diagram within your business plan and write strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, so within this, once we're done with this business plan, I really want you to come back, and I welcome you to do a more like self-work analysis of who you are, right? This is picking up like the strengths could be some of the skills that you develop, and some of the weaknesses, maybe you don't like public speaking, or maybe you don't have that human cap or financial capital that you're seeking, right? So these could be some of the obstacles that we already wrote, but some of these opportunities can become that one problem, right? You can turn these strengths into a business idea. And some of these threats could be, maybe you already do have a competitor, right? So what is going to make your business a little different? And as you're writing this, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the competitive advantage. Has anyone heard of this term? So a competitive advantage definitely means what is something that I do that other people do as well, but that I do better, right? What is something that sets me aside from my competitors? So in the example that I was giving you guys with Skims and Savage Fenty, one of the things that Savage Fenty does really well is have representation of models that are all sizes, all backgrounds. And so definitely that's one of the things, right? So with that, I want to leave you guys with some of the last slides that we're going to do here. And one of them is the pricing structure. So I want you to title it, and you're going to come back to this part because you want to do some research. How much are you going to charge for your service? Do we have different prices for different services or products that we're doing? And do we have deals that we're going to offer, right? Are we going to have like a PR package, for example, or anything like that, right? Okay, so I'll give you guys like a minute just to write here. Okay, so this last one is one of the most important ones that I will tell you. And it's one of the hardest to accomplish. But I want you to think about intellectual property rights because this is how you protect your business. So this one's a bonus. Not everyone does this. Some people just launch their business and do no kind of like property rights at all. And that's okay too. But if your idea is very unique, I want you to think of how will you protect it, right? So will you have some kind of protection like a trademark? Maybe you have a very unique name that you don't want other folks to copy. Maybe you create a content that needs copyright because maybe it's an image that or a logo that you don't want others to access or that they can copy. Or maybe you develop some kind of product that you don't want other people to copy, right? And that will become a patent. And so for patents, we have a ton, like from light fixtures to the first person that developed. The other day I visited a friend and he had a patent for toilet paper, right? And that was because for everyone that created that, they wanted it to have some kind of credit for people using their idea, right? And so that's the idea behind the intellectual property rights, is that you can offer licensing for products. I know Disney, like I have a Baby Yoda mug here. And then if someone else wanted to create any content that included Baby Yoda, they would probably have to pay Disney licensing rights, because this could be protected intellectually, right? And so this is why we want to create things this way. Any questions on this part? Okay. So this kind of wraps up our business plan. I want you to pause here for a second and to go back and fill in any parts that you feel need attention, right? I will be very honest, and this is not enough time to build a business plan. This requires hours of preparation, but I just want you to go back into some of the areas that you feel like, hey, they need a little bit more cushion for today. And I will give you the space, like 1 or 2 minutes to go ahead and share out. Not everyone will get an opportunity. So if you're interested in sharing your business plan, please comment on the chat box so we can go ahead and pick you. And we will stop recording at that point. I'm going to stop right here. I do want to answer a question we had in the chat. What happens if you create something without copyright licensing? For example, if you're creating and reselling something that pertains to someone that already has some kind of intellectual property rights, right? If it requires licensing, if there's already a patent and you recreate it, the person who owns this article or service that you're recreating has the full rights to pursue legal action against you. You see that with a lot of like big name brands who have gotten a whiff of someone else recreating their styles that may already be protected, right? Definitely it happens with a lot of like Disney items. It happens like we see it all the time, right? And people, it doesn't stop people from doing it, but the owner does have the right to pursue legal action if they choose to. And these laws get really intricate, and I'm only presenting to you like a very general idea of it, right? I definitely recommend to work with someone who's a little more versed in creating some of these protections. So I'm gonna move over here to our reflection and share out, because we are getting to the end of our presentation today. So I want to ask you, and I'm wondering, Daniela, if we can stop recording for this part.
Yes, let me pause.
How can I overcome this obstacle? And I will tell you, the key is to start one at a time. If you feel like this is not the right time, when is the right time? And stick through it. If you say in 6 months, once I'm done with school, this is when I get started. Okay, but what are you going to do now to get there, right? Consistency in anything that you do is the most important part. So I want to do quick shout outs. So can you share one word that uplifts someone else's contributions to today's work? And if you want to shout yourself out for some of the work that you did, I definitely recommend it. But if you had to share one word of how today's workshop made you feel, what would that word be? And we're not, we are recording, so if you want to comment on the chat, you definitely can. I see inspired. I definitely feel inspired by you guys' ideas. I feel a lot of gratitude. I see hopeful, curious. A dream without a goal is just a dream. Yes, Gabby, yes. More prepared. Please, please keep on sharing. What I want to ask you guys now is to go back to Menti. We're running behind a little bit. We have about 1 more minute. Go back on Menti and answer the question. This one's going to be, it's the same code that you guys were using. But let us know, what do you want to see next? This is going to help Madison and Daniela at the Dream Resource Center tailor more of this entrepreneurship information for your next event. So let them know, out of all these, I saw curious, right, was one of the questions. What is some topics, or what are some topics that you would want us to explore in the future? And I just want to thank Miguel for dropping the code in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can get over to Menti really quick. And I already see folks are sharing, so thank you so much. Oh, sorry. So you guys should be able to share here. If you're having any issues with it, let me know. Yeah, I think you should be able to write in here what you would like. And again, you can always share it in the chat. And I know we're at time, so as you guys are getting to write in some of these things, I'm gonna hand it over back to you, Madison, so you can help us close this out. I know you had some things that you wanted to promote.